Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's install, when replacing the factory radio, we're going to cover and show you how to retain your multi-view OEM camera when installing a new aftermarket head unit. Let's get started. In this radio, because of this specific trim, still has the same camera, backup camera, as all the other trims. On the radio, you'll notice you can change your view mode, and on the other dash kit and the other trims, you can do that digitally with the new LCD screen provided by the kit. Since we don't have an LCD screen, the camera is only going to default to the standard image for backing up, but there's two other digitally manipulated images of that camera, and you can get to it, and we're going to put in a toggle switch and show you how to easily set that up. Alright, so we have prepped our harness. We pulled our access harness out of the box. This is a radio harness. We've stripped both ends. Now, you also will have a 12 volt to 6 volt power adapter for your backup camera. And basically, because our factory camera is 6 volts, it'll convert that 12 volt power signal to 6 volts. Now, we're going to go ahead and make our connections, and we'll go over those connections for you so you can replicate them at home. Now let's cover the camera. Now, a lot of feedback online is this camera harness doesn't work all that great. Well, there's a couple of tricks that you can do to make your camera a little bit more reliable with your new aftermarket radio. First thing is our instructions do tell us to power our camera and to trigger the radio off of your camera trigger wire, which is green-purple. The issue is this green-purple doesn't put out enough current, enough amperage to both trigger the radio to go in reverse and power a backup camera. So that's an issue on the Metro side. A way around that is on your camera 12 volt to 6 volt reducer, blue-white wires the 12 volt input. So instead of, as the instructions state, instead of connecting this to your reverse gear trigger wire, which is this green-purple, so instead we're going to connect our blue-white wire into accessory. Basically, we're going to power the camera whenever the radio is on. The benefit also of doing this is we can use that camera anytime. Our radio has the feature we can peek upon the camera when we're going down the highway. We don't just have to be in reverse, which is super cool. So we're going to power our camera, our 6 volt blue-white wire is going to go to our accessory. It's also tempting to connect the blue-white wire of this to the blue-white wire of the radio harness, but we don't need to do that. Black is ground. We just tie that into our ground as mentioned before. And then the output, 6 volt output, goes to our camera power 6 volt wire, which we just soldered into that. Secondly, also for our camera connection, our camera, like mentioned in the car, has two other modes. Besides like the fisheye, there's a wide angle, there's a narrow angle, there's 3 different video modes of our factory camera. Is only going to default to one of them, and if you don't enable the other 2, you're missing out on additional camera factory features that you had with your OEM radio. So we found a way around that, which is pretty cool. This is our camera harness plug, and we found 2 extra wires that pin in this. We grabbed one of these guys. It's a Toyota harness that we have in our stock. We pulled out 2 pins using a deep pinning tool. We popped it in these 2 slots here. When we're in the car, this will make a lot more sense, but there's 2 wires in the factory camera harness that's not pinned here. And if we ground this one or that one, it'll actually change the image of our backup camera. So we can essentially, if we apply ground here, it'll change the image to that view. If we apply ground here, it'll change an image to that view. Or if we don't apply ground to either one of those, it'll default to the third image. Now, if you don't have pins, anything left over, which the majority of you watching won't, you can modify the OEM harness. We'll show you where to tap into. You can add 2 T-taps, and basically what we're going to do is grab this rocker switch. We're going to add our extra ground to that center pole here, and then one will go to one, brown will go to the other. And in the center position, it'll default to whatever camera angle it's set to. But if we set it to 1, it'll apply ground to this side, and it'll ground that one wire, changing the OEM camera image. And same thing with the other way. We can get the other image because it'll apply ground to the other pole. We'll flash mount this in the car so it's nice and hidden, but it's still accessible. And that's how we're going to access the additional camera view features without any major modifications. With all that being said here, again, we can add more notes in the description for you, but we're going to lume our harness with some high temperature Tesa tape. Basically, this will be ready to go into the car. Left our backup camera. This will go to the input. Like I mentioned before, for a camera harness, here's our switch that will flush mount. So obviously we'll cut a hole and we'll flush mount this in a nice and conspicuous spot. We got everything zip tied nice and clean. So we're done with our harness here. We can set this off to the side. All right, so we're here in the car. Now we're ready to start getting everything installed, but I wanted to show you some of the backup camera information that we talked about on the bench. That two-way switch, I just went ahead and flush mounted it right there. It's, barely noticeable, so even if you remove that, nobody's going to know that there's a hole there. But it's easily accessible in case we want to switch our viewpoint. Additionally here, if we grab our backup camera harness, this pink and this yellow wire right here, those are our two other viewpoint triggers, and they are ground triggers, hence why we're going to ground either the pink or the yellow, and why we added those pins on the other side. Now, if you don't have those pins, you can use a T-tap to tap into the pink or this yellow wire and throw in that switch to ground. Camera connected. Again, that's why we pin these wires, is because they align with the pink and the yellow that we talked about. So we got our radio just in temporarily. You can see how we made our connections there. Center is ground, and then the other two viewpoints are left and right. You can get to it. So nice thing is, because we wired our camera off of accessory versus just a reverse gear signal, if we turn on the camera, we'll switch our camera switch here underneath. There's one, and there's the other. We'll keep it in the center because that's what it defaults to. The reverse, working great. Let's go ahead and finish reassembling the radio. If you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead and post a comment below. And if you like any of the parts that we use, we'll link them in the description as well. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. I post great content on the channel all the time. We'll see you in the next video.